Hello YouTube and hello Ninth Age community. This is Charles with Evershade Gaming and I'm bringing you another Ninth Age battle report. I got this game in earlier this week against Dino, the infamous Beast Herds player who keeps crushing me. And I actually brought out my Emperor Sonnstahl. I'm feeling pretty confident with my Dread Elves for Siege of the Tower, and honestly, Emperor Sonnstahl looks like a lot of fun. So I brought out a list with a Prelate on foot, a BSB on foot. They've both got 1-up armor saves, and the Prelate has a 5-up ward save. The BSB, the Marshal, has a banner speed. I have a Wizard with 4 spells from Alchemy. He's not on this page, I don't know why. And then I'm just bringing on a lot of infantry. I have 2 things of 20 heavy infantry with halberds, 2 things of 5 cavalry, 2 archer units, 2 militia archer units, 3 Knights of Sun Grishin, 38 Imperial Guard with great weapons, full command, and the Stalker Standards. Then I have an Arcane Engine to help them strike at Initiative 3, 10 Flagellants to kind of chaff, protect war machines, and then the Steam Tank is starting to look pretty decent again, so I took that out. And then I have 3 different artillery pieces, the Imperial Rocketeers, the Mortar, and the Cannon. And that's my list, so let's take a look at my opponents. Dino is running his Beast Herds. He's got a Beast Lord on a Razor-Trust Chariot with a 1-up 4-up regen with the Bluffer's Helm and the Beast Axe. Then he has a Beast Chieftain. He's his BSB Totem Bearer. He had a 1-up 6-up. I don't see all of his equipment there. Then he also has, oh, there it is, the Dark Ring. Yep. he's got a 1-up. He's hard to kill too. He's got a Wizard Master on a Chariot, Soothsayer with 2 Special Invocation, big block of 40 Wild Horns in core, 3 Chariots in core, and then 2 ambushing ones, 2 Gore-Tax, 2 Jabberwocks, another Razor-Tusk Chariot with the +1 to charge bonus, or they must have that innately, I don't see it equipped. And then he has 2 things of 5 Centaurs running sober with paired weapons and throwing weapons. This is the start of my opponent's deployment. He's got, on his left, he's got a unit of 5 Centaurs, and he has 3 core raiding chariots. Behind that Jabberwock, next to the chariots, is his general with the Bluffer's Helm. And that's all in this picture. For the rest of my opponent's deployment, he's got his big block of 40 Wild Horns, and he has his 2 other chariot characters, the BSB and the Soothsayer. Then he has his other Razor-Tusk Chariot, and then he has a Gore-Tack, his Jabberwock behind the Gore-Tack, his second Gore-Tack, and then his last unit, his 5 other Centaurs. And then on my side, I have my 10 Skirmishing Archers, starting on the right, and then I have my 5 core Knights, and then I have my 3 Knights of the Sun Griffin. I have 20 Halberdiers, 20 heavy infantry, and my Wizard is in the front left, and then next to my heavy infantry is my Arcane Engine, and I'm using an Arcane Engine of Foreseeing. In the middle of my deployment, I have my 38 Imperial Guard with great weapons, and my Prelate and Marshal BSB are hanging out in that unit. Next to them, I have my 20 State Militia, and they have bows. Next to them are 5 more Knights, and they're actually naked, no upgrades. And then I have my Cannon, Mortar, and Imperial Rocketeers all in a line towards the back. Next to the Rocketeers are 10 Flagellants, and they are facing the flank. And then I have my Steam Tank right there next to the water feature, and then 20 more Halberdiers, heavy infantry with full command. And Dino, the Beast Herds player, actually dropped quite a bit to make me go first. So I get to start turn 1, which is incredibly unfortunate for me because of the Dark Rain, but very fortunate for him. So at the start of my turn 1, I have those Halberdiers, those heavy infantry, 14 inches away from the Centaurs, and I actually charged them in. It wasn't the greatest charge because they are in a forest, but I thought I could poke through enough wounds, with a charge and a banner to maybe, at least stick around. And this is what the rest of the board looks like after I finish my movement phase. So the Steam Tank is actually just within 21 inches to shoot that Gore-Tax, so it did not move. And I faced those cavalry around, and then I just kind of moved up, trying to, I guess, chaff with the cavalry on the Centaurs, force them to charge in. And yeah, I just kind of move up slightly. In the magic phase, I get 11 dice to 6, and I think I get a silver spear off, but I can't wound his general, or I can't wound whatever my target is, so I actually don't even get any spells off. And then my shooting phase, I don't do anything because I have a -2 to shoot with every shooting unit on the board, and they can't hit anything like that. In combat, things go poorly too. He doesn't get his hatred, but he still kills 6 models, which isn't crazy. I come back with 11 attacks, and I poke through only 1 wound on these centaur units. Although still with the I only had like 3 combat. It was, I think I lost by 3, but I passed a leadership 4 test to stay. So they stay there, but things are not looking good. And then Beast Herd's turn 1, he charges his other centaur unit into my knights, which will also not be very good combat for knights. And then this is how the rest of the Beast Herd's movement looks like. So he moves up his chariots, he kind of moves back his lord, he moves up his Jabberwock a little bit, he really moves up his 2 Gore-Tex, and he also moves up that 1 Jabberwock a bit. Not too aggressively, I would say, but with the Jabberwock at least. But the Gorgons definitely, they moved as far ahead as they could because they aren't too scared of anything but that cannon. So my opponent has a low magic phase. He only gets 3 dice, and I channel, so it ends up being 3 to 3, and I stop his, I think, only 1 spell. He may have gotten a totem off. And then the centaurs, they just plow into the knights. I mean, I need 3 up armor saves, and I can't even make any. I think I lose 4 knights before they even strike. But it looks like they kill 1 centaur, and then the centaurs overrun, and they're like that for the archers. And then over here, again, same thing. So he kills another 6. I think this time he had hatred, and with like 11 attacks, hitting on 4s, moving in on 4s. I only do 1 wound on these guys. So they pursue the halberdiers, the heavy infantry, they get away, but the centaurs are right there, and it will be my turn next. At the start of EOS turn 2, I attempt to charge the Flagellants into the Wildhorns. Both his Wildhorn ambushers came on turn 1, and they fail, and in addition to those guys failing, those halberdiers do not rally, and they flee a little bit more, which, again, doesn't help me very much. And this is how my movement looks like. So I was also able to charge the Knights of the Sun Griffin into the centaurs that overran, because if my opponent fled, he would have been off the table, and if he didn't go off the table, it would have been very easy charge for me to get him. And then I was also able to charge my small unit knights that are turned around into his ambush unit, which I was happy about that. And then I move up my Imperial Guard a little bit, and I back up those archers. In my second magic phase, I get another 11 dice to his 5, and I channel. I channeled so much this game, but I still get no spells off. Or if I get a spell off, I probably got a Silver Spear again, or Silver Spike, and it didn't do any damage to something. And oh my gosh, it's just like, I'm rolling like 3 dice at a spell that needs an 8, and I fail it. I get like a 2, 2, and a 1. And I fail it by 2 or 3. It's terrible. Ugh. In the shooting phase, the steam tank hits the Gorgon with its cannon, and it does 3 wounds, which is great. It does 2 or 3 wounds. I think it does 3 wounds. And then that's the only thing that does damage this round, actually. The cannon just kind of misses. It rolls like a 2. The mortar misses. The Imperial Rocketeers, unfortunately, I wanted to shoot the chariots with it. And I even deployed second, but I didn't put it over there because I was worried about his ambushers. So unfortunately, that thing doesn't do much this game. In this combat, I actually roll poorly. I think I do 1 wound. He does a wound back, which is crazy. He gets past that 2 up armor. And he only does 2 wounds, and I fail an armor save or something like that. And but I ended up winning by 1. And thankfully, he fails his Leadership 7 Steadfast test, and they run off the board. So I catch a lucky break there in the combat phase. And then against the centaurs, the Knights of the Sun Griffin, they just wiped them up. I don't even think they fled. I think they just killed them all. Which I had 2 in contact, attacked, so I had quite a bit of attacks too, with between the Griffs and the Knights, so that's pretty normal. At the start of Beast Herd's turn 2, so my opponent decides to charge these fleeing heavy infantry with his centaurs. Or actually, first he charges them with those wild horns, and then he charges them with the centaurs, and he pushes them. They roll actually low twice, but they flee off the board eventually, and they go through this Imperial Rocketeers. The Imperial Rocketeers pass their panic test, but the mortar fails its panic test because they're within 6 inches of them and it can't shoot. And then he redirects the wild horns, ambushing wild horns, into flagellants, which I'm okay with. And then he has a fail charge with the centaurs. One of the Gorgons, I know that looks like a Cygor, but he's playing it as a Gortak, goes into the side of the steam tank, which, again, I mean, I'm not happy about, but the steam tank's got to hold up something, I guess. And, I mean, what better than to hold up a Gortak? This is the end of Beast Herd's movement. The other Gortak also made a charge into the archers, who stand and shot, but they did not really hit much. So the Jabberwock also tried to charge the archers, but failed. I believe he needed an 18, so it wasn't. I mean, with the +1 to charge, it's almost like an average charge. So he could have made it, but you know, he's already doing well with his dice rolls at this point in the game, so he fails that charge. In the magic phase, it is 9 dice to 6, and he gets the Direwolf totem off on these chariots, which I just have to let go. He then gets Evocation of Souls off on his Gorgon, which I also, I think, let go. And then he gets Hasten the Hour off on my block, and I try to stop this, but I can't stop this spell. And he does 1 wound to my BSB, he kills the champion, and then my prelate actually passes his ward save, which is good. So I didn't lose, I didn't take a wound on every character in that unit and lose the champion. In the combat phase, the Gorgon or the Gortak goes in and he doesn't do any wounds, which is great for me. And then I have 2d3 grinds. I think I get 3 grinds and I do 1 wound. So it's a tie combat actually. And I reform to face like that. And then in the middle, he kills 8 archers. The archers don't poke any wounds through. And they hold because I've got the general and the BSB right nearby. In this combat, I think he fails his hatred test. But he ends up getting 6 hits, and he does like 6 wounds, wounding on 5s. These guys are T4. And I do, let's see, 1, 2, yeah, I do 8 wounds back to him. So I win the combat, but because he did 5 wounds, he's steadfast and he sticks. So that was kind of unfortunate, but that's how the dice rolled. At the start of EOS turn 3, I charge my big block of Imperial Guard into the side of the Gortak because you gotta get rid of these monsters when you can, otherwise they just stay and stick around for the whole game. And this is how the rest of my movement looks. I moved the Knights of the Sun Griffin up so that I can countercharge things that charge in the middle. I moved the Halberdiers, the heavy infantry, back because I'm kind of worried about those chariots. They got that totem up. I'm not too worried about. And then I moved the archers over. My wizard's actually in the archers now. He's just trying to kill his general, kill his characters. But I mean, obviously he's not having a lot of luck. In the magic phase, it's 12 dice to 6, which, I mean, if I'm going to get spells off, apparently I need a buttload of dice. So I believe that I get 2 spells off this phase, actually. I get a Silver Spear off on... I think I actually target these chariots because I'm worried about them charging into stuff. The Silver Spear, I think, just does 1 wound. And then I'm also able to get a Quicksilver Lash off and they have the Flame attribute on them, and that does, I believe it does 4 wounds. So that's quite nice. And the shooting phase, again, I guess something picks up here. So I shoot the Jabberwock with the cannon, and it does the full wounds, which is awesome. Nothing like killing a monster with 1 shot. And that does cause the Razor Tusk Chariot to flee, and it flees 10 back towards that way, which again, great stroke of luck for me. It's the last one you might see in this battle. Combat goes okay over here. I lose 3 more. I kill 6, 7 more, and then he flees, but I don't catch him. And then over here, it's just a pillow fight. I don't get a lot of grinds. I think I got like 2 or 3 again. I didn't wound any. He probably does a couple wounds. He's not getting his lethal strikes, and I'm just passing armor saves. So we're just still stuck there, just slapping at each other. Things take a turn for worse in the Imperial Guard combat. So I go in there. My BSB isn't really kitted out to kill things, so he doesn't do any wounds. The prelate is at initiative 4. He's got 2 attacks with a great weapon. I think he does 1 wound. So the thing still has 2 wounds left. Or it has 1 or 2 wounds left by the time it strikes. He puts 3 attacks on the BSB, 4 attacks on the general, and he gets 1 lethal strike through. I can't pass my 504 save, and he does 3 wounds. So my general dies to a lucky lethal strike at the top of turn 3. And then with all the other attacks, the great swords, they do kill the Gortak. But yeah, it's just it was unfortunate. I mean, he gives that unit hatred and everything. So and then I reform to look like this, because now these Imperial Guard got to face all these other threats. So at the bottom of turn 3, Beastard's turn 3, he charges those Wild Horns in, and he also charges those Chariots in. The Chariots needed a long charge. I think they needed a 12 on the die, but because he had his general nearby and they had to plus 1 to charge, he actually didn't even need his totem. He just rolled high enough to get in all on their own. So the Chariots make it in, and so do all those Wild Horns. This is what the rest of the turn looks like. So he moves up his characters to support the big block in the middle and to cast his magic. And then he moves that Jabberwock up to chaff the Knights of the Sun Griffin so they can't, rear charge the chariots if the combat turns sour. And then he also rallies his Razor Tusk Chariot, and he moves up the Centaurs and charges the Imperial Rocketeers. The magic phase is 8 dice to 7 dice. I channeled again, and the first thing he does, he gets Whispers of the Veil off on the Imperial Guard. He gets like a ton of spells off. I'm failing to dispel. He's 1 dicing totems and getting them off. It's crazy. So pretty much what happens is he gets the trait spell Fumication off, he gets Whisper of Veil off on the Imperial Guard, and then he gets the totem for +1 attack and armor piercing 2 in his Wild Horns. The impact hits do 5 wounds, and then he strikes with, he's got 50 attacks from those Wild Horns. He's got 30 in the front, 20 supporting attacks. They all have hatred, they're all strength 4 because he has got that banner, and they're all arm-piercing 2. So when it's all said and done, he kills... And then even after the Chariot strike, when it's all said and done, there are 3 Imperial Guard left and the BSB. Thankfully, they stick, even though they're like leadership 7 or 6, because they've got to deal with the fear, and they're dealing with the -1. But I mean, I can't. When a Beastard's player is getting the 1 dice spells off, he even got a 1 dice the trait spell off. He got it on a 4-up or something like that. So that's the start. That's the end of that combat. In the start of EOS turn 4, I charge my Knights of the Sun Griffin into the side of his Jabberwock, which I'm okay with. I think they should do quite well against that. The monster is not really made, to pick on tough units. It's made to pick on smaller units. I charge my Arcane Engine into the side of the Chariots. With only, 5 wounds left between the 3 Imperial Guard and the BSB, it's not like there's a lot of combat res he can generate from them. So I charge that in, hopefully with the impact hits. If I, roll high, I might be able to kill a Chariot off and, even it up so that the I mean, maybe, something can survive. And then the end of my movement, it looks like this. So I also attempted to charge the heavy infantry into the Jabberwock. I couldn't see the chariots. They're just out of my arc. I didn't mention it in the previous turn, but the centaurs are just cleaning up my war machines. I moved my cavalry over, but it's just wrong. Every turn, it's just they're in the wrong place. Yeah, and then I moved my archers up with my wizard to do some magic. In the magic phase, things actually go well again. It's 9-6, and I believe I do 2 wounds to you as general, and that comes from a Quicksilver Lash, which is quite good. And then I'm also able to get Word of Iron off on the remaining Imperial Guard, which, I get the +2 version off, so they have a 2-up again, which is going to go to a 4-up. I'm just hoping, because if at least one's alive, I can, I'm still bodyguard rule in effect, so it's a long shot, definitely using that spell, but I have to try and keep those guys alive. Shooting doesn't really do anything, so we go right to the combat phase. And actually that's a lie. I believe the cannon hit the raised just chariot and did 2 wounds. But in the combat phase over here, the Knights of the Sun Griffin, they do 2 wounds to the Jabberwock, and he does 2 wounds back, and he flees. He only goes 6 inches, and I just can't catch him. I roll like a 1, a 2, and a 3. So he gets away. And then in combat over here, the rest of the Imperial Guard are killed. The Chariot, or the Arcane Engine, I believe, comes in and does 3 wounds, which is pretty decent. I think when it's all said and done, and also the BSB killed like 3 Wildhorns. So actually, when it's all said and done, I win by 1, which is amazing. But the Chariot sticks on a 7 because it's leadership 8, and then the Wildhorns are leader 9 with a reroll, so they stick as well. And then, I forgot to mention this in the previous turn as well. I mean, with that terrible combat, there was also a terrible combat over here. So, the Gortak hits, and he does 2 lethal strikes on the steam tank, and he does, like, 6 wounds. So, in one combat phase, he goes back up to, like, full health, and he drops me down to 1 wound. And then in this combat phase, he whiffs again. I roll up 2 or 3 grinds, and I actually do 2 wounds, and he flees combat. So this is my turn, and he's fled, which isn't exactly good. And then again, the centaurs are just mopping up these war machines, which, I mean, they have a lot of attacks to do damage, but I keep getting like 3 attacks, and I get like 1 or 2 hits, and then I get no wounds, and it's just rough. You would think that I would poke through 1 wound. It's like I have a decent chance to poke through 1 wound every time, so that his chances of killing a war machine decrease every time, but it does not happen. At the start of Beast Turn's turn 4, he rallies his Gortak, and he actually attempts to charge that Razor Gesture in the steam tank, and he rolls poorly, and it does not make it in there. And then the rest of the Beast Turn's moving to this, so no other charges. He parks his general right in front of the Knights of the Sun Griffin. He's pretty much daring me to charge him. And then he just kind of repositions his characters again to just kind of give the buffs out. And then in the magic phase, it's 11 dice to 6. He gets the Wolverine totem on both of these units. Again, when you got 1 dice to throw at a totem and you get it off, and you've only got 6 dice left, and he's got these evocation spells, you just really can't really stop a lot. But I believe that's the only big thing. He actually fails to cast something for the first time in the game. He attempts to hasten the hour on the wizard unit, and that spell doesn't go off. So I actually end up stopping the rest of his spells and totems. This is just another shot of how the movement looks. In combat, it doesn't fare very well. I don't really do any wounds, and then can't remember what killed him, but I just don't make any armor saves with my BSB. You know, he's got a 1-up, and I think I don't, you know, probably one thing that did kill him was the Longhorn on the raiding chariot. It's got that strength 6 attack. But either way, my BSB is dead. The chariot still sticks in combat. At the start of EOS turn 5, I turn my archers around to try and pick on those centaurs. I know he's got his wild horns there, and I know they need to get into my deployment zone, but I'm just not really sure what to do, and I'm kind of looking for points at this point. And then I kind of turn my heavy infantry around again. I don't know if what they're going to be able to deal with. I can't really move my Knights of the Sun Griffin because they don't have musician, so they are actually stuck there. Magic is 8 dice to 5, and my opponent lets a Silver Spear off, and for the first time in the game, you know, it hits, or you know, it wounds again, and then he fails his regen save, and it does 2 wounds. I'll look for the 3rd wound, but I mean, I'll take it. I'm not able to get any other spells off, as he, you know, I might have failed a spell, or he just, you know, out rolls me and dispels everything. At the start of Beast Herd's turn 5, that Beast Lord is looking for vengeance. He charges those Knights of the Sun Griffins. We'll see if they can stay alive against him. And then he charges the rear of my archers with his Wildhorn buffs, and that will also not go well. And this is how the rest of the Beast Herd's movement looks up. So he moved up his Jabberwock to threaten those archers and try and clean up on those points. He moved his chariots to, you know, make sure he's got his bubbles, and then he actually also charges his Gore-Tac back into the steam tank, and he moves his centaurs around to shoot my knights with their throwing weapon. My opponent doesn't get anything off in the magic phase, so we go right to combat. And this is hilarious and devastating at the same time. So the Gore-Tac got shot by the steam tank the previous turn, and the steam tank hit, wounded, and did 3 wounds. So the Gore-Tac is down to 1 wound, which is great. But then he's gonna come in here. He's gonna hit, you know, a bunch of times because, you know, when you hatred, you just hit with everything, and then he actually gets 2 lethal strikes. Because, of course, you know, I can't even get half points on this bastard. And he gets 2 wounds back, and then he's, you know, he's not quarter point, he's not half point. And then because he's frenzy, he overruns, and he overruns 10 inches almost into these guys. Thankfully, he's 1 inch short from murdering all those poor knights. The combat with the archers goes poorly, and they're just wiped out. And he overruns, and he's like so. And then the chariot and the arcane engine, they actually don't hit or wound against each other. And Sooner herself blesses this combat. Oh my gosh! So he goes in and he does like 3 wounds with his impact hits. And I strike before him, and I poke 1. You know, I get 1 wound with the one of the griffs, and it goes past the armor, and it goes past the regen, and his general dies. Suna be praised. And then the knights reform to look at the Jabberwock. So at the start of EOS turn 6, the Knights of the Sun Griffin, freshly invigorated by their victory over the Beast Lord General, charge the flank of the Jabberwock. And the Empire Sonnstahl heavy infantry charge the chariot, and also the knights go into flank. They're just kind of rallying to save their arcane engine and clean up those chariot points. Magic is okay. I get 9 dice to 6 or something like that, and I get Word of Iron on these guys because, I mean, last time, you know, this thing did 2 wounds with the Strength 5. You know, these guys only have a 3-up armor save. They, you know, even Strength 5 can let some wounds go. So I get just the basic Word of Iron off, so these guys now have a 2-up, which is good. And then I attempt with the rest of my magic phase to kill the BSB I guess I kind of wanted to try and kill both those characters. I mean, I guess I feel like I had options to try and deal with both ones, but between like a Silver Spear, Quicksilver Lash, I do 2 wounds to the Beast via the Quicksilver Lash. 3 would have been great because then I could get quarter points, but it was not meant to be. And the BSB is alive, but he took 2 wounds in the magic phase. Combat goes well in the middle. The chariot is dead by the end of it, and no casualties really. Just pretty much able to strike before the Longhorn can kill something with its strength 6 attack. And then the start of Beast Herd's turn 6, so he doesn't really have anything to charge. I missed a picture. The Knights of the Sun Griffin do end up killing the Jabberwock, or I don't know if they kill it or they charge it. I think they actually run it down. They do 2 more wounds. It doesn't do any wounds, and they charge it down, which is great. And he doesn't really have any charges. It's kind of like he had like 18 and 19s to do these chariots, and he didn't want to. He just didn't feel like it was worth it. Probably taking pity on me at this point, honestly. And then over here, I had this one alive Flagellant. Too bad he's not a scoring unit, because he could have actually tried to have marched his butt all the way over there. But he gets picked on over here, and my opponent gets 1 hit, but he fails to wound with his strength 4 throwing weapons. And then the end of the game looks like this. So we've got the one Gortak alive. He's got his scoring unit in my deployment zone, which is going to give him the objective. He's got those centaurs trying to pin down that Flagellant, and then he's got his 2 chariot characters facing off against there. Actually, I think you can actually, it's a great picture of seeing I just got that 1 Knight of the Sun Griffin left. So actually, he must have done a wound or 2 against me, and I just did a couple to him, and I, again, just beat him with combat res. So the end of game is a 15-5 Beast Herd's victory. Our battle point difference was 867 points, which ends up becoming a 15-5 swing after objective. Which, that's a pretty good tournament win for Dino for his Beast Herds. This is his siege list that he will be taking to siege the tower in a couple weeks. Actually, like a week and a half by now. I had fun playing the Empire of Sonnstahl. I thought this was a pretty fun list. I'm not quite sure how I feel about those blocks of heavy infantry. They just don't really feel like they can accomplish a lot on their own. I like the Knights. I think all the Knights, even the Knights of Sun, they all needed a musician. I had such a hard time with that, just reforming them 1 turn and not being able to move them. If I had a musician, I might have been able to save the war machines. This game was a little bit frustrating, but still kind of fun. I gotta give it up to Dino. He plays Beast Herds really well. Just pretty tough to compete when you roll those 1 dice totems. But it's been a fun game. It's been a fun battle report, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.